We can go from there. So I'm Tom Mingle, and I'm the SOFA host for this session. I'm with Ecohousing NL at the most eastern side of Canada, even beyond the Treehouse in terms of geographical location, half an hour ahead. And the closest you can get in Canada or in North America to Europe, I think. And I would love to welcome you to the presentation. Just a little bit of housekeeping, which you will probably hear at every session. Please, if you are not speaking, stay muted so that we don't have too much background noise. And of course, you can speak up and unmute yourself for the Q&A session if there's one. And please let people that were introduced earlier or myself know in case you have any technical questions. This is also in the chat. If you are so inclined, of course, and I will put that in the chat also, this organization SOFA is very much dependent on donations so that we can be and remain affordable and equitable, so that everyone can come in at what they can afford. And I'll put that in the chat. We are now in the session called Finding Time for Feedback, and Cate deVreede, I hopefully pronounced that somewhat okay, will lead us through that session. Take it away.
Thank you, Tom. And welcome. I am I'm happy to be here. That was a nice intro from Jerry and Sheila, and welcome to the first session of the day. My name is Cate deVreede. Tom, you got it right on, and I'm a member of Treehouse Village Ecohousing. And this session is being brought to you not just by me, but by actually one of our circles. So this is the Treehouse Connections Circle. And my fellow members are Becky Hogue and Kathleen Hunter and Ann Whiteman. And we have another member who's unable to be here today. Her name is Sue Jeremy. And so today's session is going to begin with a really very brief overview of our community and the various ways that we share feedback as an organization. Then our circle is going to demonstrate how we do a performance review. And the circle is going to be providing feedback to me in my role as the leader of the Treehouse Connection Circle. And we're pretty excited, maybe a little jittery about that, because we haven't done that for an audience before. So hopefully that's interesting. And then we're going to take some time at the end to hear from you and your questions. So Treehouse Village Ecohousing is a group of families with a shared vision of creating a joyful, environmentally responsible, healthy, multi-age co-housing community in Bridgewater, Nova Scotia, Canada. We are nestled in 15 acres of forest, a short walk from downtown, and it features 30 homes built to the ultra energy efficient passive house standard. Construction is underway. This is actually a little bit of a dated photo from a couple months ago. All the homes are now pre-sold. We're taking a waiting list, and move-in is set for spring of the coming year, 2023. And our members currently span 8 time zones, and aren't we dearly looking forward to all being in the same time zone this spring. And while pictures are nice, pictures of what is to come and what is so far are nice, I suppose that the most sociocratic way to introduce ourselves is to show you our organizational structure. So brace yourself. This is a very full, busy slide. You don't have to take in all of it. The slide deck will be shared with you. You can have a look at it later. I'm just going to point out a couple of things to help situate you. So we've been using sociocratic governance since the beginning, when we started forming 4 years ago. And this structure, this organizational structure, is dynamic and changes frequently. The circle that's here with you today is called the Treehouse Connections Circle, and our focus is on the social side of things. So our aim is to provide experiences, resources, and structure that foster harmonious interactions and cultivate a well-functioning co-housing community. And our domains, what we're responsible for, are things like gatherings of our full circle, news, events, conflict management, learning resources, and we're also working on the policies that will be needed by our common house when we move in the spring. So we're going to demonstrate one way of doing feedback today, but there are several ways that we do feedback as an organization. So we do meeting evaluations. After every meeting, we do pluses and deltas. What worked well? What suggestions do we have for next time on the process, the content, and interpersonal aspects of a meeting? We do role holder feedback. This was recently changed from what had been called, we were calling performance reviews or performance evaluations. And this is about how a role holder is doing in their role. And we do these for both circle roles, so leader, facilitator, delegate, and so on, as well as operational roles that we formed. And they usually happen, we try to have them happen about midway through someone's term in holding that role. We also do role description reviews where we look to see, is the role description, this role that we formed, is it serving our organization the best that it can? And we revise it if needed. And again, we do those for both circle roles and for operational roles. We do policy reviews, which is where we revisit and if necessary, revise a policy. We do circle reviews. This is kind of a broad and usually takes sort of multiple meetings where we look at the bigger picture of how a circle is doing. We review the circle's aims and domains. We also reflect on how we are upholding our community's vision and core values and community standards, as well as how we're doing with adhering to the principles and practices of sociocracy, which is our chosen method of governance. And finally, there's consultations. These happen in a variety of ways, focus groups, surveys, etc. And they're used by circles to gather feedback on a particular decision or a particular policy. So our experience has been that it is, we often receive positive feedback about taking the time to do these various reviews and evaluations. And yet it's still hard to find the time to do it when there are so many pressing business things to do, right? We've had thousands, hundreds, thousands, I don't know how many decisions we've had to make and work that needs to get done. And I know that that's similar, whether it's you're a forming community or under construction or already well-established. There are just so many things demanding attention. And sometimes it's hard to make time for gathering feedback. But because we've received such positive feedback over time about how the value of it, we've done some things to try to help us make the time. So we build it right into agendas. So in our agenda template, which you'll see shortly, you'll see at the bottom, there's a section for meeting evaluation, pluses and deltas. Every meeting we do that, and our members are used to that. It's part of our practice. We set and track terms or deadlines, if you will, to sort of schedule, maintaining a schedule to remind us of like, oh, it's time to do a circle review. Okay, let's get that on an agenda. We try to respond to the need. So if it doesn't seem like quite the right time, this is kind of the opposite to scheduling. Like, yes, we have a schedule, but we also are flexible in that if something comes up, it did in our last meeting of this circle where we were like, actually, there's not a pressing need to do that role holder feedback right now. Let's postpone it a little bit. Then we can do that as well. Building in opportunities for gathering feedback into an agenda helps to diversify agendas so that you're balancing feedback with other business. We've heard that members like kind of that mix up of attending to business, making decisions, and also spending some time doing evaluation or feedback. There we go. And we find it's been important to notice, name, and appreciate what feedback brings to the circle. And when we do that, then it sort of positively reinforces like, oh yeah, there is value in taking the time to do this. And yet it's still a challenge. So I'm hoping that we'll have some time at the end to hear ways that you are building in time, making time for feedback in your community. All right, we're going to go into our demonstration here in a minute. And so this, as I mentioned, is a recent shift for us. We had been calling these performance reviews or performance evaluations. And just this week, we decided to change it to role holder feedback. And with that, there's a few other changes we've made. This was really brought upon by members who some members were feeling uncomfortable about how the performance reviews were being framed. We heard that it felt sort of more corporate than neighborly. And, we are neighbors. We are going to be neighbors. And, we're here to support each other. None of us are getting paid for what we're doing. And so we thought, is there a way to make this a little more welcoming, a little more mutually supportive in terms of the tone and the language that we use? So an example, we changed the do betters part of the template to what are your ideas for change? What goals do you have for the future? And we changed the improvement plan language to takeaways. So at the end, the role holder shares what they're taking away from the experience. Okay, so we're going to test this new method today. Y'all are going to get to see us try it for the first time. And, we are approaching the midpoint. The circle role holders in the circle are approaching the midpoint. And we like to do the reviews, the role holder feedback. Sorry, see, I'm still getting used to the change in language. We like to do it part way so that role holders get a chance to actually integrate their goals and their ideas and their takeaways. So I hold the leader role in this circle, and the circle is going to be providing me with feedback on me in that role as leader. And to do this, we're going to create a fishbowl or like a circle meeting within this session. So you'll get to observe us in action. And if you'd like to follow along, we keep our minutes live in a Google document. And so, Anne, if you would put that in the chat, that link, then you're welcome to follow along with the live minutes as well. Anne is our scribe, and she will be gathering the minutes there. And I'm going to turn things over now to our circles facilitator, Becky.
Thank you, Cate. I'm Becky, Rebecca Hogue, and I am the facilitator for the I was going to say Community Life Circle, the Treehouse Connection Circle, another one of our recent renames. And so the first thing we typically start off with is our check-in, and to help us get comfortable and ready to do this feedback session, we're going to do a really quick check-in. I will ask members when you do your check-in to also state what role you're in the circle. And so we'll start with Anne, then Kathleen, Becky, and then Cate.
Hi, I'm Anne. I am the circle secretary, and I would say this morning I am feeling both excited and jazzed up about doing this, and also a little bit nervous and anxious. And I am, I am living in Nova Scotia. Over.
My name's Kathleen. I am the circle delegate, which means that I take information from this circle to our coordinating circle. I am currently living in Moncton, New Brunswick, but we'll soon be moving to Bridgewater in the spring, winter, soon as I can. I'm going to move to Bridgewater, and I'm really excited to be sharing the system that we use for our feedback, because I think it works really well. Over.
And I am Rebecca Hogue, otherwise known as Becky. I am the facilitator for the circle. I'm also living in Bridgewater and love living here. I love this little town. And I will also be presenting a little bit about, what am I presenting about later this afternoon about, my brain is mush. Gaining trust, building trust while creating policies. And yeah, anyways, and over to you, Cate.
Yeah. I'm feeling a little jittery. Nothing like trying out something new in front of an audience. But that is balanced for me by feeling secure in the circle. Feel very comfortable with the three of you being here. We're seeing Sue a little bit. And I just realized that if we go to view and then speaker view, then the four of us show up bigger and it feels a bit more like a regular meeting. And I'm also feeling curious. Yeah, I'm feeling curious to try something a little different, see how that feels.
Yeah, thank you, everyone. So attendance, so our admin section, are all members here? No, Sue's not here. She sends her regrets and she sent along some information for me that I will share at the relevant times on her behalf. Duration, 30 minutes, maybe a little less, we'll see. Minutes have previously been consented. Are there any announcements? Not seeing anything.
The last wall
Brick.
piece is being built tomorrow. And
Yes.
the roof gone. Yeah.
Yes. The last brick tomorrow. It's an exciting time for the community. Next meeting is December 2nd, 9 to 11, our normal time slot. And with that, I'm going to ask if I can get consent to the agenda by thumbs. Yay. Thank you. The first agenda item, this is a one agenda item, is role holder feedback. We are going to be doing role holder feedback for our circle leader, Cate. I put in brackets Becky because that's the person who's introducing it. I saw Cate there first without the brackets and I was like, oh, wait a second, you're not introducing it. No, I'm introducing. So role holder feedback is an evaluation of how the role holder is doing in their role. It's distinct from a role review. We're not talking about the role description or whether it needs to be updated. Rather, we're specifically looking at how the person is doing and what advice we can give to help the person do their job better within the circle. The first step in this process is 3 steps. The first one's understanding the role, and then we share feedback and we share takeaways. So in the agenda, we've listed the role description for circle leader. The key is that the leader is to coordinate and direct the work of their circle. The responsibilities are listed. So the responsibilities and qualifications are listed in the agenda. I'm not going to go through them in detail, in part because we don't have time. Previous role holder feedback is also listed. So this is from the last time we did a role review. And so it's also in the agenda here. And so the first question I have is there anything you'd like to understand better about the role before sharing feedback? And I'll ask Kathleen and Anne.
No, I'm clear.
All clear.
I'm clear. Is there anything you want to add, Cate?
Nothing else. Thanks.
Okay, then we're going to go on to the feedback portion. So feedback is a key tenet in what we do in Sociocracy, and it helps us learn and continually improve. We're going to do 2 rounds. The plus round looks at the past. It looks at what the person is done, may include appreciations, accomplishments, done wells, what's working. As always, we ask if you can reference the role description and qualifications when possible, but you don't have to. But if you can, great. That's really good. We begin, the first round will be pluses. The second round will be deltas. And that's where we really look to the future. And we look at delta as what are the things that we might want to change, or we might want to ask the role holder to change going into the future in order to do things better, to serve the circle better, or to help them do their job better. And so with that, we always start our pluses, our appreciations and accomplishments with the role holder. So the role holder begins with their reflection, followed by circle feedback. So I'm going to pass it over to Cate first and see what are your reflections.
Becky. Yeah. I think one of the things that I feel satisfied about is that I've been trying to be mindful about prioritizing business items in order to support our goal of trying to meet less frequently, right? So we are coming through this time of transition from the development company where we're doing, building, getting it built, lots of generation of stuff and yeah, a really intense pace, and coming into this time of soon we'll be living together and we won't want to be meeting in circles that meet every week for 2 hours. So this goal of gearing down that we've had, of finding a more sustainable pace, I feel like my leadership of that gearing down has been working relatively well. We're still meeting every other week-ish, but it's definitely a step in the right direction. And yeah, so I think that's one thing that I'm feeling pretty good about. Also feeling good about our agendas. So in particular, that they contain like a pretty good balance of the various agenda item types that we have, right? We have like reports, exploration, evaluation, and decision. And I feel like those are pretty well balanced because I don't see us having a backlog right now of any one particular item. We're doing kind of a mix of them each meeting. And yeah, I am grateful for members' willingness to take on and help with preparation of agenda items when requested, and your willingness helps me to be a better delegator. So thank you.
Thank you, Cate, for getting us started. I'm going to begin this round by pasting in, so Anne, I'm just going to paste in Sue's feedback. There it is. And key things, I'll read it out because not everyone is seeing the agenda as well. Cate creates thoughtful agendas that provide space where all circle members can feel comfortable in expressing their ideas, cares about the comfort of circle members such that always checking in advance to make sure I'm fine introducing an item, as Sue is often, she's a delegate from one of our subcircles, and so is often introducing things. Cate met with me in advance of my first meeting to provide information and answer questions that I had. She helped me feel welcome and comfortable in joining the circle, and this is much appreciated. And Cate brings experience, knowledge, and honesty to the role of circle leader, listening to others and always willing to make changes and consider all options and comments. You're doing a great job. So there's the feedback directly from Sue. I'm now going to go and ask Anne for her pluses, appreciations, and accomplishments, and then Kathleen, and then myself. You do need to unmute yourself.
Because I'm the scribe, and I knew that, I often also just paste my comments in because otherwise I can't talk and type at the same time. It's kind of tricky. So yep, let's try that again. Do it in the right format. Cate really led our circle through a very complex transition from what we used to call the community life circle to what we now are as the Treehouse Connection Circle. And that included an associated overhaul of our aims and domains. It had lots of moving parts and a lot of attention to the gaps and overlaps with our circle and other circles. And I think that was masterfully done. And not that she did all of it, but she guided us through it, which was really good. And I also find it particularly helpful when she takes very complicated tasks and breaks them down into manageable steps that sometimes take more than one meeting. And I think that also goes to attending to the needs of the members of the circle, and a lot of organizational skills and a lot of skill in agenda preparation. Over.
Okay, I have notes for mine, but of course, a lot of them have been mentioned already. Cate is really great at creating agendas that maximize our time. So they're very efficient. And we almost without exception, are able to manage all of the things that we've been asked to go through just because they're so well structured. She encourages the supports of members to step outside their comfort zone and play a role. I'm an example of that. I was kind of hesitant to take on a role in our circle, and Cate encouraged me to take on the delegate role, and it hasn't been painful at all because she's so supportive. She's got really strong communication skills, and she communicates compassionately and concisely, which for me, I know I would struggle with doing both of those things at the same time. And she's really supportive to the needs of the circle. Over.
The advantage to going last is that most things of what I was going to say are said, but I do have a couple. Particularly plus is the attention to the aims and domains and calling out when the work that we're doing doesn't fit. In particular, as leader of one of the subcircles, calling out when some of the work that we were doing is like, ooh, is that really in our domain? And getting us to validate, that kind of thing. And I think that she does a really great job of that. I do really appreciate her trying to figure out how to get us to meet less frequently, but also listening when we say, whoa, that's a little bit too less frequent. So that we can sort of get that balance of, okay, you can't just wean us off of weekly to monthly, right? We got to sort of work our way. And so I thought that's really good. And as mentioned previously, great agendas and good sense of timings for items, how long different things are going to take. And that is my feedback. And I'll let Anne get caught up here. And so at the end of this round, we give the role holder an opportunity to reflect on anything that we've said in this round. And then we ask them to start the next round. And the next round are deltas or ideas for change or goals for the future. And so I will pass it back over to Cate.
Thanks, Becky. Obviously, your kind words fill me up. And it's really helpful to hear like specific things because I'll try not to change those things. I'll try to keep doing those things. Yeah, so for deltas, I have, I'm pleased, Anne, to hear you say that you thought that the shift from a previous circle to this circle and a big shift in our aims and domains was done quite well. I think it was done quite well, and I think I haven't looked at them really closely in a while. Like I think I would like to look at our domains in particular again in a strategic and anticipatory way because we are about to move in. So yeah, I want to just make sure that we are aligned in the work that we're doing, and I think now's a good time. Another thing is that the goal I have for myself is to attend a little more frequently to our Trello page. I tend to like ignore it for a while and then I look at it a lot. Our Trello page, for those listening, is where we keep track of, it's like our task tracker. So we keep our backlog there, we keep where we are assigning tasks and various things all there, all our review dates we keep in Trello. So yeah, I've been kind of looking at it in fits and starts. I would like to just be more regular in my attending to that. It is still a really useful tool for me in the role of leader. And so even though you all might not be using it a lot, it's really still very helpful for me. And there's times when I I've been noticing I've been using email when I could really just tag you in a Trello card instead. So I'd like to improve at that. And my last goal for this is that I would like to really keep top of mind and maybe even turn my attention to a bit more personal and professional development around compassionate communication as we integrate the results of the survey that we just did. So, we're hearing things from the community about how they're doing through that survey, and some of it is hard to hear. And I want to, just remind myself to practice and maybe even push myself to learn some more so that I can guide the circle through responding to that feedback. Over.
Well, thank you, Cate. Sue, when she sent me stuff, did not provide anything for this section, so I don't have anything to add in that section from her perspective. And so I'll pass it to Anne and then Kathleen and then over to myself.
Uh-oh. This is where I fall down. I really tried to think of something that I could say. I kept thinking, how do I, think about the future? And I drew blanks. I tried leaving it and coming back and seeing if I could think of something else. I'm sorry. I failed in my mission. No deltas to give you right now. Over.
I don't think that's a failure, Anne. I think it's indication of a well-run circle by a leader that has a far-reaching view of what the project is. I also don't have any deltas. And just because of that, Cate has a good overview of what we're trying to do, and she knows more about our aims and domains and how they fit with the rest of the community way more than I do. And so everything that's happening seems to be divinely planned. So no deltas from me.
I have a couple. One, I just wanted to, I wanted to amplify one of Cate's goals, which was the need to reevaluate or reexamine our domains with the eye to moving in. And sort of I know it's such a, we last did it with the eye of transition, and now it's like the eye of, we're actually going to have people moving in a couple months. And so I think that goal I wanted to just amplify, because I think that's going to be a really important thing. One minor delta, 2 hours and 5 minutes. Can we lose the 5 minutes? We added 5 minutes for a break in the middle, and everyone else has brought in the 5 minutes. And if we could just lose the 5 minutes so that our meetings are 2 hours, I would really appreciate that. So that would be my delta. And that's the round. And so I would ask Cate if there's anything else she'd like to reflect on in the deltas, and then share any takeaways she has.
I actually have a question here for you, Becky, as facilitator. So in my previous role of feedback, there was a takeaway there to seek agenda timing advice from you as facilitator. I've not been very, very regular in meeting with you to review agendas beforehand. I think that mutually works, because I also trust that when things have come up, you will reach out to me. But I really just want to be explicit. Is the current way that I seek your input on the agenda, is that working for you, or is there something else that you would like?
That's a great question. I think it's actually working out quite well. I do look through and validate the timings and say, is there enough? Because I almost did it at the last meeting going, I think this is going to take longer. But then I noticed you had a lot of time on it, and I thought, okay, we can do that. And of course it took longer anyway. But I did, I do check it. And so I think it is actually working quite well in that aspect. But thank you for asking that question. Do you want to lead us in takeaways?
Sure. Yeah. So I think that I am taking with me, yeah, my own goals in addition to the other suggestions that were made here. Yes, we can drop the extra 5 minutes. That's I think I did that actually once or twice inadvertently, and so I'll just make that standard. And yeah, I think looking at our aims and domains again. So like we postponed our circle review, right? We were supposed to do it in the fall, and it's still fall, isn't it? We were supposed to do it a few months ago. We didn't do it. So I think the new year is a good time for us to look a bit more globally at our circle. And yeah, I would just copy and paste the Delta list that's there and into the takeaways. I'll take all those things with me and try to keep them in my mind as we move forward.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for your honest feedback. At this point in time, we're going to jump onto the big blue box at the end of our meeting. Typically, we would ask for backlog items, but we're going to sort of skip over that for this demonstration and just do our meeting evaluation. We're also not going to do what our typical closing round. We'll go back to Q&A, and I will pass it back to Cate for her facilitation afterwards. But let's do, first of all, the evaluation. This is the first time we've used this model. And so I think it's very interesting, and I would like to do pluses and deltas together, as is typically our practice, with the leader going last. And please refrain from giving self deltas and stick to process, content, and any interpersonal. And I'm going to ask you to start us off, then Kathleen, Becky, and then Cate.
Yeah, I think it seemed to go pretty smoothly. I am also hold the operational role of template manager at Treehouse. So I was kind of the one who put together this agenda item as a template for us. And although as I said before, I was standing on the shoulders of giants, so I didn't, just create it out of nothing. But I think it seems to work fairly well. I'm pleased with that. I also think we'll see how other people felt about it, but it felt reasonable to do this review in the fishbowl situation here, and I'm kind of happy with that. I'm always bad at the deltas. No deltas. Over.
Yes, I liked using this this format. Felt very comfortable. The language was very non-imposing. I like that the circle or the role holder feedback from the previous time was included. I think that was very helpful to see that there. Yeah, it's a very non-threatening kind of review for feedback. So yes, I don't have any deltas.
I'm really liking the new format. I find it a whole lot easier to participate in and a whole lot less awkward in places. And so, yeah, no, I'm liking it. And I thought that the format, like the agenda as well, worked really, really well. One of the things that sort of is my delta here is I think we need to do a little bit more around setting people up for that mind shift of deltas. And because Cate did an excellent job of coming up with deltas that were goals for the future. And I thought that was really, really good. And I was thinking as people that were providing the feedback, I don't know that we necessarily thought about the goals for the future. And so I think that as a community, that's a retraining that I think we're going to need to do, but I think it's actually really useful to go through the process. So I think that's a sort of a delta is to talk about deltas a little more in advance of, or do a little bit more learning about what deltas, the value of deltas in this context, I think would be useful. And that's all I have. Cate, over to you.
Yeah, +1 to yeah, everything that's there already. I, as the focus person of this feedback, I did find the change from sort of deltas, what's not working, to what goals do you have for the future, to be really like it just brought in a lot more for me to think about and made it easier for me to come up with things. So I really like that shift a lot. And I think what I also just like about it is that it assumes that our role holders all have these good intentions about wanting to do better, wanting to serve the circle more, you know, and that's like to frame it as goals rather than what's not working. Just, yeah, it made it easier for me to share the things with you that I'm thinking like, ooh, I'd like to do this a little better, even though, you know, it's being expressed as a goal. So that was great. Small delta, and I don't even know if this is where it belongs, is I would love to be reminded to look at my last performance review or my last role holder feedback before the next one. So I don't know if we can set up like reminders maybe in Trello to like go and look at that earlier, so that, because I looked at the list and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't done that yet. But it's mostly just because I forgotten I hadn't looked at the list from last time. Anyway, maybe we can figure something out for that in the future. Over.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone. That concludes this portion of our demonstration, and I'm going to pass it back over to Cate.
Thank you, Becky. And oh, I guess another plus I just want to say is thank you, Becky, for facilitating this new format in front of an audience today. So thank you. So that's it. I had one last slide, but it's not really a slide. It's really just saying, okay, over to you. And I'll actually put some of the questions in the chat that I was thinking would be interesting for us to hear from you about, which are, yeah, in what ways do you gather feedback in your community? We'd love to hear other ways, new ways, different ways that folks are doing that. How do you find time for it? And if you have any questions or feedback for us, we'd love to hear that. So yeah, I guess you can just unmute if you have a question or something to say, or put your hand up if you know how to do that. Or you can put it in the chat too, and we can respond there, whatever you're comfortable with.
Cate, I see that Jackie McLeod has raised a hand.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for that great demonstration. It was really great to also follow it and see as you typed your minutes up in there. Really enjoyed that, and made a couple of notes where one of our circles is electing a new lead next Tuesday. And I really liked your description of the role of the leader, and I went ahead and immediately put that into the agenda. I think we're going to be using that from now on. It was much more interactive. But my question is, when you started off, you talked about the feedback and how you're doing it, and there's a lot you mentioned, you know, the meeting evaluations, but all the things you have just shown us, and also policy reviews and circle reviews and consultations. Is that every circle, every single one of your circles does it that way, or is it somehow directed, or is it just part of the circles who do it? That's my question.
Sure. So I'll take a go and then invite any of the Treehouse members who are with me if you want to chime in, or anybody else in the audience who has something to offer. So those are all things that all the circles at Treehouse Village do. None of us knew anything about sociocracy when we adopted it. And so we've very much been leaning on resources that are out there. We use a lot of SOFA resources. Many Voices, One Song is like our handbook. We use a lot of things from there. And it's been easier for us to kind of apply the same templates and the same approaches, same procedures across our circles, because it does make it easy, you know. Then we sort of have one way of doing things for the most part. But in that, we also want to have the feedback. So if a circle is finding it's not really working for them to do it that way, we want to hear that. And maybe it's time for, you know, a little more variation among circles in terms of how they do their circle review. And we've seen that already. We have sort of a standard template of how to do a circle review, and circles still will make changes to sort of make it fit their circle a little better. But certainly having the standard templates does give everyone something to go to and start with that I think really supports us to not have to sort of reinvent things every time. And Anne is our template manager, as you heard her say. So she kind of keeps track of all those documents. I see Tom.
Yeah, sure. I ditto what has been said about you know, how courageous it was of the four of you to do this in public. And it's interesting to me to see how easy it is for somebody in Sociocracy to go from basically one community to another and feel at home in the process. What I really enjoyed was the terminology that you used in terms of delta. Everybody is kind of struggling to find out, you know, what's the most empathetic way to look for some improvements. And I really love this very simple word delta. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would just add to that, Tom, that it's interesting at the beginning, I think as an organization, we did a pretty good job seeing deltas as, you know, delta, the symbol, it means change, right? And we did a pretty good job of framing things as like, next time, let's right? And then our observation recently was over time, we've almost shifted back to a bit more of a critical, like, oh, this is not working, or I don't like this in what we're hearing in the feedback. And so as an organization, we're feeling like it's time to remind people of what the spirit of the Delta is, which is that it's about how to change things for next time to try to make it better, rather than kind of naming all the things that more in sort of complaint language. Yeah. I see Barbara.
First, thank you so much for the fishbowl experience of your process. It was very, very educational. And I'm curious about, you mentioned about doing team role holders reviews midway through the term. Does that mean that everyone has the same, that all the circles have the same term for their roles, or is it dependent on the circle?
Yeah, so each circle would have their own times that they would select people into circle roles and their own term length for those roles. But our recommendation sort of across the organization is to try to do that review about partway through. So regardless of how long the term is, or when it started or ended, or whether, you know, whether your leader, facilitator, delegate, like whether they have the same start and end dates or different dates, it doesn't matter. The idea is that the feedback would happen partway through so that folks could get a chance to then integrate that feedback and act on it.
And one more clarification of what's the difference between the operational and the circle roles? What is the?
Yeah. So circle roles would be like leader, facilitator, delegate, secretary. In our organization, we've split secretary into scribe and administrator. So we actually have 5 circle roles now in our organization. And then the operational roles would be people who are selected to roles who have domain to do a certain type of operations. So in Treehouse Village, for example, we have a budget manager, we have a template manager, we have a recruiter. Oh no, recruiters retired because we're all sold. So we have a waiting list administrator. We have, anyway, there's about, I don't know how many, couple dozen operational roles that we have now. And they have terms, and we evaluate them as well and give them feedback, just like we do circle roles.
And it's a lovely site. I had the great privilege of visiting Nova Scotia and Lunenburg. What a beautiful area. So I'm so glad for you.
Thank you. And that's it for our time today. Thank you so much, everyone, for participating. You'll see us around. Becky's got a session later. I'm going to say a bit more about Treehouse Village in the next session. So I hope to see you around. later.
Well, thanks everyone, and thanks particularly to Cate, Becky, Anne, and Kathy. This was just amazing, an amazing first session with the fishbowl. It's been courageous of you to do that, and it's been very effective. So thank you very much. And I have put again the link to the donation page in there, and probably see you in another session. Thank you.